Hey friends, hope everyone's having a good night. I just felt like it was really important for me to jump on tonight and go over the trade on Qs. Although it's not done, I think we've reached a really critical point in the chart. So let's kind of just jump into it. Off of Friday, the whole goal here was for it to sweep the buy climax and up thrust high. You have to remember context is key. This was a UTAD up here with three breakaway gaps, one exhaustion gap. You guys already know the gist, right? We had an LPSY here, or just kind of like a test off of this gap. We broke down. We basically based against this gap fill here from 617, which was also a really big dark pull bid. Then we broke down, right? And it's important to know that distributions are kind of nice to trade because you can trade them both ways, right? So usually with distributions, it'll pull back all the way down to the buy climax high and the up thrust high. And then from that spot, what you'll do is you'll get usually a relief rally where it'll bounce on exhausting volume or lower volume, a divergence, if you will, for kind of like a macro LPSY slash test, right? And then what it'll do is fizzle out, break back down underneath the buy climax, up thrust high, retest again as an LPSY, and then continue down lower, right? Now, what I was really looking for, off of this sweep candle, because obviously this swept underneath this Friday bar, swept underneath this spot here. What it really did, kind of looking at this, right, is trap a lot of buyers that were likely trying to trade off of this support, right? We kind of saw it hold on Thursday here, where it didn't have a crazy long lower wick, volume was a little bit higher, but people took some risk trying to catch bottom here, and it obviously opened up lower and then sold lower. So in reality, what this likely did and what the volume here was is buyers getting stopped out on a break underneath this. And then on top of that, we pulled all the way down to the 50-day, right? So we broke through the 50-day, we broke a support. So who do you guys think is naturally getting in on this? Probably shorts, right? A big support broke, it's pulling down under the 50. So then people probably went short, either on the breakdown of the spot or they went short under the 50. And bears got trapped, right? We had a V-shaped recovery. It obviously printed a really high volume candle and a clear reversal hammer on the day. But really, I think a lot of the volume here wasn't buying intent. It wasn't like pure buyers. It was a mix of buyers getting stopped out on the break of support, and then shorts getting squeezed off of the break under, and then the 50-day kind of giving a false signal underneath. So it's kind of like a misconstrued candle where technically, yes, it's a bullish reversal, but the context behind it is two different people getting trapped, right? And I don't know. Had a really weird feeling about this, and really what I wanted to see was a gap up and then a pullback down to base this buy climax high and the up thrust high at 610, right? That was a huge part of it. It's also this little gap fill from back here. And then develop just a nice higher low, whether that's an hourly or a series of daily bars that kind of just chopped around like this, and then gave us some confirmation like, hey, okay, they at least want to gather a little bit more inventory because likely they didn't accumulate off of this. Like I said, this wasn't like a capitulation candle. The VIX obviously spiked, but it was a mix of bulls getting stop loss rated and it was a mix of bears getting trapped. I didn't know if they had enough to kind of push price up fully, right back up to 632. They would have had to have pulled this down, developed more support here, had more buyers step in, and then it kind of rallies with some extra fuel off of that consolidation. Instead, what we're really seeing here is kind of concerning, right? We had this reversal candle. Let me get rid of the 50-day. And what we did is we basically just pushed up and up. And obviously this had like a nice day where it opened right here and then it pulled back and held this 617 spot. If you guys are in the Discord, I took like a small size short this morning off of like this 610 spot, 623 spot near the highs here. And the price actually did come all the way down to 617. And I was like, hey, if this is gonna rip, right, it's gonna happen off this 617 level, and possibly go and make a new high, or what it's gonna do is break underneath 617, retest it, and then come down to our 610 spot. If you guys know too, like this was the full size trade. If this was able to pull down into 617 and hold and give us that higher low off of this hammer and the 610 level, this is where I was going to get full size on the trade. Obviously, I'm like half size right now. I'm up like 7.5k on the trade itself so far. Sounds nice, but this didn't set up exactly how I wanted it, and it's okay. But the warning signs here are pretty apparent, right? Where if this just keeps going up, I don't think they have enough fuel to be able to make a meaningful new high through this gap up here, right? This is really just kind of looking like let me pull it up on my thing real quick. You guys should already know like the Wyckoff methodology. It's a great book, but it just gives you pretty simple accumulation and distribution patterns that you guys should be able to memorize, just using as like just a structure sheet, right, to be able to go back onto it and see what cycles we're in, what phases we're in, and really just this looks exactly like a distribution, right, where we have the biclimax high, right, and this red line up here with the BC, the biclimax, the up thrust, that's like 610. Imagine that red line is 610. And we ended up getting the UTAD, right around whatever this was up here, right? So this was the UTAD I've been talking about. We ended up getting our first test, and I'll show that in a second. Oh, I lost the thing. Okay, first test, right? This little like kind of pullback in the first test was like right here technically, right? It didn't come all the way down, but it was like this 3-bar lower high up and to fill this gap. And now that we swept the bottom, this is truly looking like the second test here, right? Or second LPSY, whether that's here or maybe I'm wrong and it's just the first one. This is looking really concerning, especially if we just have a complete melt up here, right? And we start to just move up and we're moving up on decreasing volume. This is looking like the distribution is still at play, and it's going to align from not only a VPA perspective as volume starts to decrease, but like I said, in the context of things, this was kind of like a mixed candle. It was buyers getting stopped out, which added to the volume, and it was sellers getting trapped on the fake breakdown, right? So that is the volume. I don't really think this is a true like capitulatory change of hands, nor do I think this was the start of an accumulation or a reaccumulation. I really think it was just a mix of two different things. Price is likely going to start coming up, hit 631. And if we get to 631 on abysmal volume, I really think that the distribution's not done. This will give us a test or a meaningful LPSY, and then this starts to break back down again, right? Comes all the way back to 610. This will likely give another lower high opportunity, and then what it does is it breaks underneath 610, retests 610, and then I can honestly, and I'm kind of worried for the broader market that this will likely pull down to the bottom of this Friday capitulation candle, right? This was a big day. A lot of volume was into this candle, and I really think that this can pull back down to like 590. You guys kind of saw too, I was posting it in the Discord as well today. These have been pretty successful throughout my tenure using them. Obviously, I like to use them during distribution accumulations to see where they're targeting and kind of building out positions under the hood. But today, right, we had massive dark pool orders on the bid side, right? So it technically says bullish, but remember the market's an auction. So if they're putting a lot of money to buy lower and prices going up on low volume, that means the demand at higher prices is not as attractive, right? There's not enough buyers up here. So what will the market do? The market will be like, hey, okay, there's a large amount of buyers down here at 609.8, which is right at the level we're looking at for that 610 retest. They'll say, okay, hey, perfect opportunity. What we'll do is just sell this back down, right? As this makes its way up, it starts to exhaust. There's not enough buyers at the highs. What they'll do is just come and trace all the way back down to those buyers right around 609, 610. Those guys will get filled. We'll likely see a bounce, like I said, for a lower high. And I honestly think the lower high could be off the open here, right? So I said later down the road that the 617 spot's going to be very important. I still think it is, just round it up a little bit, maybe to like 618.92, so 619. I think that this will become the lower high if we end up selling back down. So that is kind of what I'm looking at, especially if we make our way all the way up, once again to reiterate, to 631 without a pullback to 610. If that's the case, guys, I think the distribution's still in play. I will be looking to take another big trade here. I said the 610, or the call is the 631 was the big trade, but that was conditional, right? That was only if we pushed up, we pulled back down, base 610, developed a higher low, then I was like, okay, this will be a full-size trade of 632, 631. Trade will be over. We're good to go, right? Until like probably December or January, take a month off or whatever. Now, if we just rip up here, we'll have a half-size trade, still make a good amount of money, but now an opportunity presents itself off this while still in an active distribution. Big trade would then start off of 631, 632 for a move back to 610, right? And if this ends up pulling down to 610 and it pushes back up and gives us another test or an LPSY off of 618.92, hey, there's another opportunity there, right? Or we can just hold the core position, whatever we want to do, look for a lower high and then it break back under 610, retest 610. What do you guys think's there, right? Another opportunity for another roll, add more contracts if you want to add into the core position that we had from up here, or you guys can roll into shorter dated and then look for a big move, probably down into this buy side liquidity here at like 590, right? So I just wanted to jump on, kind of mention that. However, with all that being said, I don't want to like stray away from the general idea, right? I think that the chart to trade on this is not Qs, right? On the short side, I know I just gave a huge breakdown on that, but we can use Qs as kind of like our barometer for things. But really, what I want to attack, especially going into December, January, since we do technically have like a bullish pull to the upside, I think I just want to attack like the weak cousin, if you will, right? The weakest link of this tech stocks, and Meta has really been that name, right? I've been talking about Meta for so long, right? I mean, we've been tracking this for so long, where this has been in an active distribution since honestly back in February. You guys remember this is one of the trades that I took a loss on back here when I was like, oh, this is going to come back to 550. It just took a lot longer with the buy climax here, up thrust here, UTAD here, LPSY here, right? Sorry, I have to like adjust this back over. We had a secondary LPSY here, or the test. We ended up breaking down, and we haven't really retested the MSAO, which is at the bottom of the range here. So let me redraw that real quick. Let me just get everything off, right? MSAO, is, and I have to adjust this, is technically down here, right? So the minor sign of weakness is the bottom of the distribution, or the mini accumulation range, whatever you guys want to call this. This is all kind of like the last remaining range at the highs. So I really think this is in a very critical spot because it's technically in this gap fill here. I'll just mark it in black. You guys can see it's swept underneath the gap fill. It didn't quite fill it yet. If this can get just a nice bounce and this returns back up to the MSAO here at 691, we have to kind of flex this a little bit too, so bear with me because these aren't always perfect if it comes straight to the level. But there is an opportunity for it to come and hit off of this spot here, right? So the open on this chart was right there, 669, right? So let's make this black. The gap fill itself is here. We can start moving things around, right? So that's the close. And I don't think it goes all the way back up, obviously not. So 751 would be reserved for like whenever we start to see high volume down here at like the 550 mark. I think they'll start to accumulate and mark it back up. But right, I really think that this can come all the way back up into this spot here, whether it's 669 or 691, and then start its a retest an LPSY off the MSAO, and then break back down into the gap fill here, retest the top of it, come down, fill the 592 gap, probably give us a bounce off of that for a lower high, and then really start to sell back down into 550. And I've been targeting this for so long. I think this is the chart to trade. This name has been the weakest on all the rallies. You guys can see it's just been selling non-stop over and over. Every single time that the rest of the market catches a bid, this has a red day. Obviously the market found a bottom on Friday, but I already mentioned the reason why. I think there was a high volume reversal bar there. But yeah, this is looking really clean. So if Qs is going to do what I think it will, and it pushes up to that 631, 632 spot, and it starts to show some weakness off of that, I would assume Meta will be somewhat close to 669. If we see a sell-off bar or high volume at that level, right, on Qs, and it starts to retrace away from that level, right? So obviously you don't always want to just get in as soon as it's hitting the level. You want confirmation, and it starts to show here and then create this separation. I think the chart to attack would be Meta, looking for 550 puts for maybe, I'll have to go look at the pricing. I can't give like a direct contract that I'm looking at, but I am targeting 550, and I think that this could happen before the next earnings, right? Or maybe the earnings is the catalyst. So, naturally thinking I would want to be looking at like February contracts of 2026. So, to make those cheaper, we obviously are kind of rooting for this to rally up into that spot. But just keep this chart in the back of your mind because this is 100% one of the best distribution charts here. I mentioned the comparison of this to like IBIT. IBIT was virtually the same thing, right? Where, a lot of people were bullish on Bitcoin. I was saying like this looks like a distribution, guys, where we had the buy climax, the up thrust. This was the UTAD, but then what was really interesting about this is the UTAD here for this little breakout ended up forming out almost like a mini distribution in its own, where we got a buy climax here, up thrust, UTAD here. And then now, right, this name broke under. It retested the MSAO here, as you guys can see, from like October 31st, and it's just been in a constant little downtrend, right? I mean, this thing has just been making lower highs, lower lows. I would still think that this continues to sell off, but this is the chart that I was looking at, kind of comparing to Meta. Meta's obviously experiencing a lot more weakness. So if tech is going to sell off, right, and Qs goes up to 631 without pulling back to 610 first, that's a big key, right? If Qs does pull back early, right, and this is what I want to mention, if Qs somehow overnight tonight, because it is technically above 623, by some miraculous thing, this sells off and hits 610 first, we are still looking for the calls. I want to emphasize that we are still looking to pile into the 630s and add into those. But if this is to rally up into 631 first, I hate to say it, I'm bearish on the market and I'm attacking Meta. I almost said Meta, but I'm attacking Meta, right? And Meta will hopefully be up into 669, potentially retest the MSAO at 691, right? If this just flexes up a little bit higher, right? Something like that. This is the chart to go after, right? And we're looking for the gap fill down here, right? And I don't know, not that I put a lot of like weight in what Michael Burry says, but he's been posting some interesting stuff on Meta and how he thinks that they're doing some fraudulent stuff with reusing H100 chips, I think it is, despite the overheating issues that they're seeing. I don't know. There's a lot of weird stuff. I would highly recommend you guys go read that on your own. I'm not gonna explain it on here because this will be like a 25-minute video. But yeah, this is what I'm looking at to attack. If we see 631 on Qs, we see weakness, and we see the broader tech start to sell off and really confirm the LPSY of the distribution, Meta is the one. So that's going to be it, guys. Until then, I'm pretty much just kind of riding out Qs. 610 if it pulls back beforehand, I mean, awesome. I'll add into that one and make that a really big trade. But I am still thinking that the distribution is not over, right? And yeah, this is the chart to be taken. So that's going to be it, guys. Just a quick little video. 16 minutes, shouldn't take too much of your time. Please comment, like, if you guys are on YouTube. If you guys are in the Discord, you guys feel free to shoot me a message, ask questions, whatever the case may be. I know a lot of people are doing really good. I've been trading really patient, just kind of waiting for things to set up. Yeah, I'm on a pretty good heater right now. If you guys want to join the Discord, I've never actually publicly said this. You guys can just follow me on Twitter if you guys don't already. Twitter handle is Lucid Capital. It's spelled with an I, right? Because it was taken, somebody stole it, and you have Discord access right here. So if you guys want to join, I've never actually plugged it because I don't care, but I think this is important to learn because we are going to see a shift in the market here rather soon, I think by January, February. And yeah, it's probably important to learn not only just this, but just have a different approach to the market versus what a lot of the BS that's been spewed on here since April, because it's been pretty easy. So that's going to be it, guys. Hope everyone has a great night. I'll see you guys next time.